Hey friends, Ray Galea here. I'm with Grant Borg, the pastor of MBM South West. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well.
Well, today's the day we're announcing in all of our campuses the very same message, and that is, what, Grant?
Yeah, so MBM South West Sydney, who has been with MBM for the last 4.5 years, at the end of this year, we're going to be setting sail, in a sense, and becoming an independent church.
Okay. Now, that was already, no surprise in one sense, because that was already part of the Memorandum of Understanding. We gave you your own budget. It was always a church plant, very different from our other campuses. The trajectory was for it to be its own church from the very beginning. And it could have happened within 3 years, but you actually stayed technically longer. By the end of this year, perhaps 2 years longer than the Memorandum of Understanding said. So why did you leave earlier?
Well, I think it's the same reason why a lot of young adults are staying around at home for a lot longer than they really need to. And that's because when you're on a good thing, why leave?
Smart man. I knew it was a good appointment.
Yeah.
It is, and it is a grief, of course. It's like just like when it's a grief and a joy. The grief is just like when my son got married and left home. I just so missed him. But at the same time, it was part of him taking the next stage in his maturity. And that's how we're seeing it, that you're now taking the next stage. You could have left earlier, but it was wiser to stay with us. But now's the time. You're about, 200 meeting every Sunday.
That's right.
You're a healthy church. You've got a beautiful, lovely culture in your church. You love each other. You're jealous for Jesus. You're making an impact in the community. But I guess the difference is you're not only going independent, you're actually, from us, that is you're not staying in the Anglican fold. So you're no longer going to be a Sydney Anglican church, and you've made application to be a member of what is an excellent fellowship of churches called the Fellowship of Independent Evangelical Churches, which is a bit of a mouthful. Anglican's much easier to say, Greg. But FIEC, it's headed by who?
Yeah, by a gentleman named Al Stewart.
Okay, who we love. Okay, so one of our own. Who often preaches at MBM anyway. So we're obviously going to remain sister churches. Now, the reason for going independent and not staying Anglican has been a big issue for you. You've been wrestling with the whole issue of infant baptism. And your conscience now is at a point where you got to that point where you feel like you couldn't baptise an infant. For us at MBM, we have a view where we work to people's consciences on baptism. Some baptise their infants, some baptise as believers' baptism, which is you can do that within the Anglican fold. But getting to that point was a conscience issue that kind of was probably one of those boundary markers that said you probably couldn't remain Sydney Anglican, as well as I know congregationalism. Your view of the church government has probably shifted a little bit as well. Yeah. Now, it's always good to remember there are evangelical churches, Reformed churches, that represent different types of church government and different views of baptism. So it's not like MBM South West is going down a Looneyville town, So there are lots of godly churches and leaders who represent the different views on baptism and the different views on church government. But you've got to land somewhere, and your conscience has landed you here. And again, I want to say that's a sadness for me. I know it's been a sadness for the bishops, but they're also been able to, in their grief, rejoice in the fact that MBM Southwest is a very strong evangelical Reformed church, and they're truly celebrating that while wanting to acknowledge, along with myself, the grief of that. And we're so looking forward to seeing what God's going to do in the future. And they all said that. They know that the gospel's going to advance as a result of your work and your church in Southwest. Anything you want to say to the congregation as we wrap it up?
Yeah, for sure. I came along to MBM in 2010, and I had only been a Christian. I don't even think it was 12 months at that point. And so I was formed as a Christian here at MBM. I got ministry experience here. I stepped into pastoral ministry, and all of my experience as a pastor has all been here at MBM. And so MBM really is my home. It's the same thing with my wife. Like, we really feel like we have dug our roots in here, and I don't think that'll ever change. And so for us to move away, it's a little bit nerve-wracking because the church has been such a support. And as well, just knowing how many of you have been praying for us, encouraging us, and supporting us in so many different ways. I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you. God bless you for your support. I've really felt it. I know I'll continue to feel it. And I hope that in the years to come, like Ray said, this may be a structural change, but it won't be a relational change. We'll continue to relate as you said, as sister churches.
Yeah.
And I hope to see you in the years and decades ahead as we do ministry together in the western suburbs of Sydney.
Beautiful. And so, friends, keep praying, because the next 6 months, it'll take place at the end of the year, but the next 6 months there's a lot of work to be done behind the scenes to make that transition happen, because we want to give MBM South West the best opportunity to thrive in the future. And we're so looking forward to seeing what God's going to do. As God willing, other church plants will take place from you.
That's right.
So keep us in your prayers, friends.